Okay, would you look at this? Siam Paragon has survived without a scratch on it. It's amazing. I cannot believe it was in the middle of all of this nonsense last night. And it looks perfectly fine. Not even a broken window. It's amazing. Right over here is the red encampment. Now, I've done some event coordination in the past myself, and how did all this stuff get down here? That's a question that I think people are going to need to ask themselves in the coming days, is how did they allow this to happen? I understand the government's reluctance to be violent with the red shirts because they don't want to create any martyrs or anything like that. But at the same time, I mean, tents and generators and food stalls, I mean, this is, look at this. They have cisterns here for water and everything. This is no small undertaking. You got to ask yourself, how do a bunch of poor farmers from up north afford all of this? The answer is they don't. Someone else is paying it for it, and someone else is feeding these people, and someone else is benefiting from their actions. So that's got to be looked into, but the government really needs to answer the question of how did they allow all this stuff to get set up down here? If people want to have their protests and their sit-in, I think that's perfectly okay. That's good democratic, nonviolent protest. But at some point, you've got to say, hey, our city needs to function. So we got a couple of burned out buildings here. But again, most of Siam Square looks to be alright, which is good news because those are all the small business owners. Although down the street a ways, there's a movie house, and I heard that that was gutted. I'm not going to go down there though. I'm going to go head down towards Central World, which is down this way. What I might end up doing though is stopping by the Wat, so I might not make it all the way down to Central World. But if there's people in the Wat who need help, then that's where I'm going to spend my time. I heard there's some red shirts holed up in there, but it's most likely women, children, and elderly and stuff like that. And so they might need a hand taking care of those people. We'll see what I can do. But, well, what's this? This is interesting. So, oh, here we have some of their bottle rockets. Those are Molotov cocktails. Those are slingshots. And, ooh, that's a nice sized hammer. Can do some real damage with that. But, you know, it's mostly small arms, no guns. But, you know, I got opinions about that. There's a lot of people saying, well, the government's the bad guy because they went in against people with slingshots and beer bottles and went against them with machine guns and armored personnel carriers. But that's not quite the entire story here. There's a lot more to it than that. And oh, here's some little shields and stuff like that that have been cracked up. There's arm holes on that one. But you got to ask yourself, who is the person who set these farmers against those soldiers? I mean, it's one thing to say the soldiers are the bad guys, but the soldiers have to protect themselves. They have to protect law and order. The police have to do the same. And someone pushed these people into that buzzsaw. And then made the soldiers look like the bad guys for defending themselves. But I think that's the situation we're dealing with right now. This is, I don't know, some sort of red encampment here. But there is a lot of stuff down here. Now, you're going to tell me some poor farmer went out and bought those speakers? I don't think so. This is expensive equipment and a lot of it. So while, yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so you you buy all this equipment, you buy all this food, you buy all this water treatment, porta potties, everything else, all this stuff. You feed these people for a month and a half. That's a serious amount of money, and yet you equip them with slingshots and beer bottles. So that's the kind of the point I'm making here, is that these people were not they were not unarmed or underarmed by choice. They could have very easily have had some serious weapons down here, and they probably did. Some of them probably did. But the ones that didn't, I don't think were given the option to carry weapons, because it probably made for better TV to have them shooting slingshots against soldiers. You know, makes the military look like the bad guy. So if you're going to spend this kind of money on preparing a protest, and then when things start to get violent, you say, okay guys, go take your slingshots and shoot at that armored personnel carrier, you're either the biggest fool for a military commander, or the biggest cynic in the world, and just using people for your own gain, just throwing people into the wood chipper. So I guess that's my opinion on this situation. There are some people very, very high up on the food chain in the red camp who need to answer some serious questions about their motivations and whether or not they set these people up to you can see the results.